what's up guys? Welcome back to the channel. If you're new, thanks for checking my channel out, and make sure you subscribe, turn on notifications, and leave a thumbs up. Also, you can follow me on Twitter at SuperHiveVC and also on Vero, SuperHive. I always forget to mention that I'm on Vero, but I am. So you can also follow me on there. The link to my Twitter profile is in the description, and also the links for my merch, which you can get 15% off right now with code NEWYEAR at checkout. And then the link to the Autumn Snyder AFSP fund if you're able to share the link or make a small donation. So Zack Snyder had an interview on the Comic Book Debate YouTube channel with the Furuki brothers. They're great, and it was a really good interview. If you haven't had a chance to watch it, I highly suggest it. I just want to go through some of the highlights. There's always good stuff to unpack when Zack Snyder does an interview, and he has been very active with the community of fans in the past few months. Basically, since he announced the movie, he's been very active on different YouTube channels and streams and stuff, and it's just awesome to see the relationship, how much he appreciates the relationship he has with his fans. So first off, and I knew this was going to become a point of discussion as soon as I started watching the interview, in Zack's, behind him on display is a picture of, it's not very clear and it's hard to see, but you get the gist of the picture, and that's Wonder Woman in the Crimean War, and she's with these other soldiers, and she looks to be holding heads of probably, leaders, or, obviously people that she defeated. And she also has a cape on, which is really cool. So from my understanding, or from what I've seen on Twitter, this was used as a placeholder in BVS until they were able to get the picture that is, from her movie Wonder Woman, the first one. And of course, that's the picture that she's looking for, that she believes Lex Luthor has. And Batman finds it on Luthor's drive when he's able to get into his, his files that he has, and sends it to her. And so I guess maybe this was Zack's original idea or plan of the kind of picture maybe he wanted to have of Wonder Woman in the movie in BVS, to show her, like her, when Bruce finds out, well, not really finds out what she is, because he doesn't know, but he finds the picture of her that Lex Luthor has. I guess that was the original one that he used, and obviously that's not the one that we saw in the movie. We ended up getting, from what was her own movie, Wonder Woman, when she's with Steve Trevor and, all the other guys that she, that little gang of theirs. I knew it was going to become a point of discussion when I first saw it, but when I was just watching the interview, I didn't realize that she was holding heads. So, yeah, Zack really loves to depict her as, a fierce warrior, which she is, right? She's a warrior. I mean, she has a sword. What do you think people did with swords back in the day? Like, they did other things with them too, but, people end up dead with people using swords. So he really loves the idea of her being a very fierce warrior, and we're obviously going to get more of that in Zack Snyder's Justice League. Now, another reason why this is a point of discussion is because Patty Jenkins recently made some comments about the struggles that she encountered when, trying to have her version of, when describing what she wanted to do with Wonder Woman to the studio. And so she said that when they hired her, she still had a lot of fear and mistrust, and just wanted to execute. The studio wanted her to execute their ideas instead of her own. She said, they wanted to hire me like a beard. They wanted me to walk around on set as a woman, but it was their story and their vision. And my ideas, they didn't even want to read my script. There was such mistrust of a different way of doing things and a different point of view. So that was definitely happening. Even when I first joined Wonder Woman, it was like, yeah, okay, but let's do it this other way. But I was like, women don't want to see that. Her being harsh and tough and cutting people's heads off. That's not what... I'm a Wonder Woman fan. That's not what we're looking for. Still, I could feel that shaky nervousness on their part of my point of view. So the whole, you know, her cutting heads off and being harsh and tough and stuff like that, that's what's really making this a point of discussion. Besides just the fact of seeing this picture for the first time, it's kind of, you know, going back to what she said about that. So also, he talked about Superman, of course, because, you know, he started off this universe with Superman, and those of us who love Man of Steel obviously love where he went with the character and his point of view on Superman. So I just want to go over some things that I always really like to hear what he has to say about Superman. He always makes such good points about his character. And he said, to me, grounding Superman into our world rather than us going into his was the way I thought about it. It's not just about the physical reality of what you're capable of, but also about your spiritual place in the world and how you fit into it. So obviously we know that he is very big on, you know, showing challenges that Superman would encounter from his point of view, and making it very realistic, and not just that, you know, oh, he has this perfect life because he has these, you know, in these these physical abilities that make him a super being. He also mentioned that, you know, in the past, Superman hasn't really been allowed to grow in movies, and I thought that was such a good thing to bring up, because that's also another thing that makes his Superman different, is that, you know, he does face struggles and challenges on the human side, and that, you know, he would face some of the same challenges and struggles that humans do, but also that, for instance, you know, choosing not to save his dad and things like that because the world wasn't ready to accept him or someone like him. And so I always really appreciate what Zack brings to the table when talking about Superman, and that he should be allowed to grow in his movies and, you know, go show the progression of his character, and that it's not just, you know, a perfect life for him. All right. Of course, you know, he talks a lot about how The Dark Knight Returns is his favorite iteration, you know, his favorite portrayal of Batman, and that he would love to be able to make a Dark Knight Returns movie someday. Of course, we saw inspiration of that in BVS, but he said that he wanted to make sure that, you know, he didn't want to copy it. It was more of an homage to The Dark Knight Returns, and just using some of that iconic imagery that people associate with it, but that he would love to make a Dark Knight Returns actual, like, movie, which would be awesome. So going back to, of course, Zack Snyder's Justice League, he has brought up a few times now in some of these streams and interviews that he's done on YouTube channels, that while he was shooting, that he was in such, you know, a struggle with the studio, that he, you know, there was these requirements that they kind of wanted him to meet with, like, you know, a time limit and making things funny, and, you know, the tone that they wanted and stuff like that. So he's made it pretty obvious by now that he was, you know, shooting what they wanted, and then, you know, kind of quietly shooting what he wanted, what he felt was his true version of the movie, and what he really thought was the right way to make his movie that he wanted to make. And so that's where we're getting all this 4-hour footage from, for Zack Snyder's Justice League, and that, you know, the additional photography is a very small portion of what we're going to see. Only about 4 to 5 extra minutes, as he brought up on one of the Grace Randolph interviews. He said that he shot a scene that he had originally intended to shoot in post-production back in 2016. My prediction is that he was referring to The Martian Manhunter, just because when he had shared the storyboard for that a long time ago, he had said that he intended to shoot it in LA, but he never got the chance to. And so that's just my prediction, that he was referring to that scene. He didn't say that. It's just my personal theory that he was referring to that. And then, of course, we know that he got to shoot with Jared Leto and the other people that were on set for additional photography. But of course, we know now we're going to have Jared Leto's Joker included in that. So obviously, you know, we're going to get his original vision for Justice League that he quietly was still filming for while shooting stuff that the studio wanted him to film, because he's like, you know, if I ever get to, I'll still have my original, what I wanted to have, regardless of what, you know, I'm allowed to release. And he said a few times in the interview that he never thought that he would be here. He never thought that, you know, he had just kind of made peace with the fact that, you know, his version of the movie was probably never going to be released to the public. And that he just was never expecting it to happen. And so I think we kind of, as much faith as we've had the past few years that hopefully, you know, it would happen someday. I think also and part of us are probably like, you know, the studio's not listening to us. They're not going to, you know, pay attention to what we have to say, so we're never going to get to see it. But we knew that he had his own version. Sorry for all the breaks. My kids are just refusing to calm down back there. So, yeah, it's kind of sad to hear him say things like that. It's kind of heartbreaking to, you know, hear him talk about like, oh, well, you know, I had the movie, I've lived with the movie all these years, my original vision, and then, you know, people would come over, I'd be like, hey, you want to watch the movie? So it's kind of like, obviously he wanted to show it to there's people he was like, he wanted to share it with, you know, and so now he's just over the moon that he gets to share it with his fans, so it's awesome. However, and I think some of the, there's going to be a group of people, let's just say, that take this and run with it because of the recent New York Times article that referred to Zack Snyder's Justice League as a cul-de-sac, a street that leads nowhere, according to WB executives, supposedly. And I think what Zack said in this interview, people are going to take it and run with it just because of that comment. And he said that at this time, he doesn't have plans for, you know, a part 2 or anything like that. But he added to that, at the same time, he never thought that he would be in this position that he is now, getting to release his original vision. So that can change at any time. Let's say, for instance, after Zack Snyder's Justice League comes out and there's this, you know, massive response to it, I don't see why the studio wouldn't offer to continue his personal movies. I think for Zack and Deborah, it would probably be like, well, are we going to get to do what we want this time? You know, if they give him the creative freedom that he wants and are not trying to change everything or have these ridiculous requirements like it needs to have more jokes and stuff like that, then I think maybe he'd probably be on board for that if they were going to let him really do what he wants. But that's, you know, we have to wait and see what happens with that. And then an interesting question that I had never thought of, but it was cool that they asked him this, is that if he could pick a Marvel character to make a movie for, who would he choose? And he said that there is a Daredevil story, Elektra Lives Again, where Daredevil is having, like, you know, dreams and visions and stuff, flashbacks of Elektra being alive again, and he really likes that story. I don't really know anything about it, but it sounded interesting. It's cool that I like Daredevil. I liked the Daredevil Netflix series. I hope that they continue it on Disney Plus, but hope they don't try to, if they do, I hope they keep it kind of the way it was on Netflix. But anyway, I think it's interesting that he picked a Daredevil, you know, Daredevil as the character and as the story, because he's similar to Batman, you know. So just some, you know, it's, like I said, that was a cool comment or a cool question that they asked him I never thought of. But obviously Daredevil is one of the, you know, grittier characters in the Marvel Universe, so I think that fits Zack's aesthetic and where he likes to take characters, so it's pretty cool. But yeah, I just wanted to bring up some of those things. I might have forgotten some of the, you know, main highlights of the interview that were brought up, but again, you can go ahead and check that out on Comic Book Debates YouTube channel. Great interview. It's always great to hear Zack talk about his movies, and can't wait to see Zack Snyder's Justice League. We're just a few months away. He said, you know, in about a month, the big marketing campaign will kick off, and he's still hoping, you know, always pointing out that he wants to do a theatrical release, so hopefully that happens. But thanks guys for watching. Don't forget to check out the links in the description, leave a thumbs up, and again, the code to get 15% off my merch is New Year. The link for that is in the description, and we'll see you next time.